Welcome very, very much to Conversation. A pleasure to welcome to the program two women who can speak very authoritatively and in a personal sense, both a personal and a larger tribute to his legacy, that being our Buckminster Fuller. And we have two guests here, and on my far left is Elizabeth Thompson. She's the executive director of the Buckminster Fuller Institute, which is carrying on the legacy of that giant of a design anticipatory design scientist. Welcome very much, Elizabeth. And on my immediate left is Allegra Fuller Snyder, and she's the daughter of our Buckminster Fuller. And Allegra, welcome enormously to Conversation.
Thank you. Thank
it's
you
so
very
good.
much.
So good to see you again. We did a program with you and Jamie, I think, some years ago.
Quite a long time ago.
Maybe it might be worth our while. We want to get down because there's a major event. This is going to be airing on the 6th of June, the day that you're having a major event at Cooper Union. We want to let the people know about that.
Right.
But let us share, because your dad, Buckminster Fuller, was an enormous figure in terms of design and in terms of understanding things in a comprehensive mode that is an inspiration to a whole lot of very intellectually oriented people in the world. But maybe you could share, give us a rundown on, or a summary of the man as a person and his contributions to understanding the evolution of events in this universe, including the Homo sapiens species. But
well,
Mr.
I'm not
Fuller.
going to do that, Harold.
Well,
but
you know what I
no,
mean.
I will, because I think it's very exciting. We are actually here today because we wanted anybody who can to know about the Buckminster Fuller Challenge Award.
Yes.
And I said I'm not really consciously backing away from your question, but Bucky, my father, he liked everybody to call him Bucky.
I know.
Really wanted all of us to take the initiative to really rethink and change our own activities to be directed towards solving critical problems. And the first steps in solving critical problems may be fairly small steps, but if your vision is comprehensive and anticipatory, then you may really make an impact. And what this Challenge Award was developed to urge people to think about this and take the initiative to actually propose to us a problem that would be really moving towards some major solving of world problems. And it's very exciting because it has brought out just those kind of answers. My father called on his own gravestone, which is in the graveyard in Cambridge, Massachusetts. It says, "Call me Trim Tab."
Yes.
And people don't know really what a trim tab is, but it's a very important metaphor for all of us. The trim tab is the little edge of the rudder on either a very big boat or a very big airplane. But it's the maneuvering, the shifting of the direction of that trim tab that changes the course of the whole very large boat or very large aircraft.
What a wonderful metaphor, yes.
It's a marvelous metaphor. So all of these people who have written to us and who have made proposals that Elizabeth will, I'm sure, tell us about how we get from their proposal being sent into the award that will happen right now is the initiative of trim tab ideas being put down and really articulated. And it's very exciting, and that's why I'm here today, to get as many people out there, because it is very inspiring. You realize that you yourself, all of us, are actually capable of really confronting ideas at this very big level, and that we, by all of our experience, have ways into that problem solving which may be unique and may be very, very helpful to very large groups of people. So it's a very, rather, I feel very strongly not to talk about the Institute about an honoring of Bucky, but of a moving forward of his thoughts and ideas. And this particular process that we're going through is exactly that. So it's not about Bucky the past, but about Bucky the stimulator for the future.
Yeah, right, by all means. Anticipatory.
Anticipatory, absolutely.
And citing things into the
Right.
future. And when you say this, what we're going through, are you talking about what, or can we talk? He's a comprehensivist in a world that unfortunately academia and so forth is going so specialized in their concentration entirely.
Yeah, don't even put it on the academics. Put it on all of us.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
I mean, that doesn't mean that all of us shouldn't find a way to get the most important education that we can find for ourselves, which sometimes is not sitting down at a desk with a book. It may be even working out in the field and understanding what a process is of nurturing Earth in a way that we hadn't thought about before. And as we see that, and we see others struggling with a problem, we understand. Experiencing was at the heart of my father's own process. Direct experience as much as possible.
And he was a designer, and he was a comprehensivist, as we say. And when you said what we are going through, you said what humanity and the planet is going through at a particularly crucial moment in the 200,000-year sojourn of this species on the planet. Is this very generation or this very time frame is particularly relevant and in need of a comprehensive understanding of a whole lot of interrelated systems that are being operating often on their own without understanding a comprehensive interrelationship between the whole.
That's right.
That's a very important concept that he brought. He called it synergy. And that he introduced the geometry of symmetry.
Yeah.
And I can remember, if I may, that when he would introduce this term, he'd have an audience of 1,000 people that he's talking to. He became famous, and he said, has anybody heard the word synergy? No hand would go up. It's now on every ad agency's lips because it's behavioral systems unpredicted by the sum of the whole part of it.
99% of the people who read the word synergy don't even today to have the patience. One of the things my father was incredible about. He'd see a word that he didn't know what it was, and he read right away to the dictionary. And he just didn't read the word. He read the whole origin of the word, how it got to be as it is used today.
Good guide, I think,
well, it's imperative, really. So he, as you probably know, Harold, he's difficult to read.
Not at all. Well, I find him poetic. He'll go on with run-on sentences and linking and everything, and it all holds together with me fine. I like that.
Right, but he always processed his words, and he'd make sure that that was the word he really wanted at that very moment that he was saying it. So there was a precision. He was a poet. He was a poet.
He would be, and he was respected by poets and by the poetic, artistic.
You keep saying he was a comprehensive. He was a poet. He was a generalist. He was all of those things.
I know.
And more than that, he again felt that the more we get away, specialization, my father felt was one of the greatest problems that we had, particularly in terms of our educational.
Absolutely.
You're a scientist. Oh, you're an engineer. Oh, you're a ecologist. Or you, and they couldn't, even those great minds couldn't talk together. They couldn't see where they were
right.
absolutely connected. So,
that's right.
Yeah.
And some of our agencies in government and so forth will be so tunnel visioned and so protective of their bureaucratic backside that they will never be able to talk with anybody else. And we haven't. I just throw it out in a way. All the trillions of dollars that have been sent into our system, our educational system, our governmental system, and so forth, the planet has not yet come up with an operating manual or an understanding of the whole operation of Spaceship Earth that is required. They're still geared to reifying outdated institutions in an era that is being transformed qualitatively in an evolutionary sense, and they haven't come up with the answers that are needed. The planet is still in great peril of tremendous negative effects that could be done, or also there's a promise of tremendous positively seen effects that could be realized through good design and good comprehensive thinking, and those are not they haven't come up with the answers yet from the establishment order.
That you've just mentioned one title of a book that my father wrote, Operating Manual for Spaceship Earth.
Wonderful concept.
Another one that he wrote
later
on is called Utopia or Oblivion.
Right. Yeah. And I've read them all.
And we're hovering on that tip over to oblivion.
It is, Well, jump in.
You better,
you got to get a word in.
I was just going to say, I
Mm.
mean, so much of your conversation has sparked a lot of ideas, but I'll just jump in on one, which ties back to the challenge program and what we're doing at the Institute, and that's this notion of a plan for Spaceship Earth. And I think what is important to from my perspective to emphasize about Bucky's approach is that it's not so much about a single person putting forth some singular plan, sort of a master plan for how we're going forward. It's about understanding a set of fundamental principles, and that it's the adoption of it's the articulation, the demonstration, and then the widening adoption of a fundamental set of principles that are going to get us from where we are now to where we want to be in the future. And what we have tried very hard with particularly with the Challenge program, is to kind of distill this comprehensive anticipatory design science into a framework that people can understand when they are writing to us, as Allegra was saying, and sending in an application. And the people who are reviewing these projects can use to really see where a particular solution is hitting the marks, as it were, in terms of an integrated, comprehensive strategy. And I think that that emphasis on the fundamental design principles is something that the thinkers that I've had the privilege to meet and get to know, who are really carrying forth Bucky's work, like Michael Bonelli and John Todd and Jay Baldwin, and I mean, that's just to name a very few, their focus is on that principle level. And I think that's something that if your viewers are interested in our work and want to join us, certainly on Wednesday for our event at Cooper Union, recognizing this year's winner of the challenge, but importantly to come to our website.
Yeah, well, maybe you could spell out the challenge. I wonder if you could tell the mission statement of Buckminster Fuller. It's a beautiful one, to make the world work for 100% of them. Do you have it at the tip of your tongue?
This is a statement that Bucky made, I believe, in conjunction with a amazing sort of challenge he put forth working with the world's architectural students called the World Design Science Decade, and this was a document.
65, 75.
60, I believe that quote is from 61, but the quote is to make the world work for 100% of humanity in the shortest possible time through spontaneous cooperation without ecological offense or the disadvantage of anyone.
Now that is a poetic economy of language. It's really something that could be picked up by virtually everybody of good conscience.
Get all of those words and think of what the
right. Thank you.
They're incredibly important. Say it actually again, because
say it. It's worthwhile. And also, this event is going to be actually the day this program is going to air, so somebody could get themselves ready, dressed, as they're watching this program, to go over to Cooper Union at 2 o'clock this afternoon, the 6th of June, Wednesday. But say it again. Say it again. Say it with feeling. Now, you were a theater person, right? Pretend you're, Elizabeth, I don't know, Kate Hepburn or something. Say it,
It's to make the world work for 100% of humanity, not 99 versus 1%, 100% of humanity in the shortest possible time, through spontaneous cooperation.
Cooperation.
Yes, ma'am.
Without ecological offense.
Without ecological offense.
Or the disadvantage of anyone.
That's really a beautiful, beautiful mission statement.
It is absolutely inclusive. I mean, it evokes the kind of finite system of the planet as a whole. We are absolutely dependent upon the success of each other. And this, we were, while we were waiting for the sound checks, we were talking a little bit. I was just sharing that in a little bit of the back and forth I've had with John Todd, who was our keynote speaker.
And the first winner of the challenge.
Yeah, maybe we could mention that challenge. Okay, that's the thing. Sure. It's a $100,000 challenge where you're giving an award to somebody who has followed in Bucky's notion of design.
No, who is addressing this question. Okay. This challenge that Elizabeth has just said to you.
Right, and who is putting forth...
Okay, I just don't want to sell Bucky short.
No.
I think he's the most important
one, Harold. He would be the first one who would be insistent upon that.
Yeah, I know. Well, that's the kind of person you want to have call attention to, other than all the egos that are over...
But it's extremely important.
It is, He was democratically inclined. Yeah, definitely democratically inclined. Had faith in the mass and everything like that. And
well, that's this notion of spontaneous cooperation, that it's at the heart of this articulation of the challenge that's before us as a human species.
So I stand corrected, if I could, but just to keep it in line here, is that award has been given to people who have submitted design or notions or ideas of what can build upon that mission statement, and that's going to be presented today at Cooper Union.
That's right.
That is
and
correct.
everybody should go.
The winner will be announced.
And
the world pay attention.
Wonderful program all day long, or starting at 2 o'clock, because it takes you through the process. When the initial call for proposals goes out in September or October of each year. Now we're in June of the following year, so it's a 6 months?
And we're in the 5th year or 6th year?
This is our 5th year.
Okay, good. Congratulations.
Thank you.
5th year. The proposals are wonderfully, carefully read and reviewed. We usually start with about 250, 300 proposals. They get taken down in probably about January.
Yes, we usually close the entry doorway, if you will, in the beginning of November, and then they are reviewed and processed for 3 to 4 months. It's a very, very long, rigorous process.
And the reviewers, and you will have the chance of meeting and hearing some of the reviewers. are themselves very cutting-edge people in their concern for these kind of things. So
and for this mission statement.
And the first part of the program is an actual, the presentation of what now have come to be the two finalists.
Boy.
That's
Kentucky Derby time.
Very, and they will discuss their proposals, and then they will get into dialogue with some of the jurors who will be wonderful in stimulating further dialogue, and so that a person who's there in the audience, I think, will get a sense of really the howness of this, and I think we'll feel very inspired.
Yeah, and this process carries on, and then I know I've had done a program with your relatively new president, David McConville, and he said that he had some occasion to be aware of all these proposals coming in as he did. He said he was being educated like he's never been educated before by being involved in these, because it's leading edge, comprehensive thinking along the lines of that mission statement, and that's something for the intellectual community to be encouraged in. Perhaps increase thinking comprehensivist.
That's right.
Comprehensivist. I think when Buckminster Fuller finally had to go back to Harvard, he'd been thrown out for hijinks when he was a young man, but they finally had to give him hijinks in young men are very attractive. But in any event, he went back. He was going to give an honorary degree, and they didn't know what to give it to him in. You know, it's not writing, it's not poetry, it's not this. I think they finally ended up giving it to him in poetry, the Norton Prize in poetry. But it's very, and I looked it up one time, and I'm not sure, David and I had an exchange on that. I think I looked it up in Google or something, and I said, comprehensivist? And it came up one that maybe I'm not sure, so I'm just putting this out, you in the audience. I mean, it came up, no such word. Because everything is reduction. Everything is specialized. Everything's broken down into its component parts. And with the linear regression of the computer, where you can go in such excruciating detail into everything, and everything is interesting. You could spend a whole lifetime on the life cycle of a June bug, and or in any particular thing. And people
and you could do that and learn the whole comprehensive process.
You think you can? You can. It's yes, ma'am.
I think you can take any tool as maybe your starting point and your point of excitement,
and get to the whole.
If you're really paying attention to it. I mean, I don't have a lot of direct experience with June bugs. But
well, that just came into my head.
It
could have been anything.
They're dealing with the earth that they're on around them, with heat, with what food is. I mean, they get very, very, very comprehensive very fast.
Oh, that's interesting that you think that. We've had physics. You had unified field theory, and then you had quantum mechanics. There's two different ways they can do it. But it is all one. I think we have to admit, in a certain sense, that this planet, and that things evolved on this planet, is such a miracle. It stayed in thermodynamic relationship to the sun for 4.5 billion years. Process they got going. It's all one system. It's all one. There's something I found, that there's something like in a human organism. There's something like 100 trillion cells. 100 trillion cells. A lot of them are in the gut, and we all walk in a sea of bacteria. It's all one, and every cell matters, and every cell's connected in communication with all the other cells.
That's a pretty good comprehensive problem solving.
Well, yeah, and it also.
Human body.
Well, I mean, the thing is, it's so complex. It makes the internet look simple.
That's right.
Just a human being, and there's millions of them walking around the streets of New York or the world, and it's there. But that the world, the system, it's all one system of which that is leading toward a comprehensive appreciation of them, and then. Just one other thing. One of the things that's happening in the modern world, try to make a case for the fact that there is 200,000 years of human existence, and to make a claim that this is the defining moment of 200,000 years. So you're talking not quantitative change like historical change, you know, a new tax cut or something, or something like that, but qualitative, like almost speciation.
Right.
We emerged 200,000 years out of Homo habilis.
Yeah.
Where did all the Homo habilis go?
Yeah.
And how do we relate to the people that are exerting themselves in a political context of being in advance with weapon systems that give them an advantage? All of these questions, huge questions, that we're at a moment of qualitative transformation. Do we sense that enough, I wonder? As we just reify the outdated institutions inherited out of one system that is being qualitatively transformed at an existential level, one major point of which he said, we may actually be transcending in a certain design sense and mimicking and in touch with nature and ecology, material scarcity that has been the condition in which all of human institutions evolved. That's a major premise. It ought to be brought up and put on the table by the intellectual community, and it isn't, except at the VFI. Come to the festival.
Come to the award, because then the evening, what time is it?
6:30.
6:30, the actual award for this will be presented, and it clearly will be a project that is covering all of these things that we can. And our keynote speaker, as I think we said before, but I think it's important to say it again, is John Todd.
Yes, please.
Who was the recipient
of the first
award.
Tell us a little bit about John Todd, the audience.
He is the.
You've got a major array of people in your corner. I think it's a really important institution. Everyone should pay attention to. Yeah.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
We're doing the best we can to, as Allegra keeps referring to focus on how these ideas, these principles are showing up today. And Bucky was a profound example of how they can be applied if taken absolutely
full throttle.
as the full throttle for the duration of a single person's lifetime. But these principles are available for everybody.
Yes, right.
And the idea is to communicate them with enough concrete passion in the form of their instantiation in the world.
Thank you.
To inspire people to take them up themselves. And I think I'll get to John Todd, but one thing I did want to note is that what's been so remarkable and inspiring in the process of reviewing these challenge entries and having the opportunity to hear the story of the people who are submitting these entries, they come from all backgrounds.
Wonderful.
Some of them are, classically trained in a particular specialty. Some of them come directly from a design background. Many of them started with just a profound concern
for the human
condition, care for the human condition, and for something that was happening in their own community, or they had the opportunity to travel to some part of the world, and they saw something that was just that compelled them to turn their life around and direct their life toward helping these people or this ecosystem, et cetera. And it's not so much that they understood intellectually how to approach the design of a solution from a comprehensive perspective. But as you're talking about the June bug, if you care deeply enough about something, and stop at nothing to get to the bottom of what it's going to take to solve a problem, you become a comprehensivist because you keep digging and digging and digging, and you see that unless you deal with this problem, it's going to come back up at some point, which is the anticipatory function of this, to undermine your solution that you thought you could just insert into the system
as a scientific process itself, is it not?
It is.
I think it's under
I'm
threat.
Sort of speaking in
it's very good.
kind
It's
of
poetic.
roundabout way, but it is. I think that while we are delighted to be partnering with Cooper Union and their Institute of Sustainable Design to help develop some concrete frameworks that the educational system can adopt, it's very important that our education systems start to think and adopt this kind of thinking and doing practice. But there is the people who come through the challenge are coming from it from a large variety of disciplines and specialties, and one of their connecting common threads is their fundamental care for the state of the world, for their understanding of their unique responsibility, and, as you were saying, their ability to do something about it, to become an active agent on behalf of the earth.
Very well said, and I think that resides in the heart of a great deal of humanity in a qualitative new way. I think there's a stirring among humanity that are looking for some means by which they can address these larger issues, and it ought to be not something reserved for some specialist. It should be something that could infuse the whole of the society, hopefully. I think Buckminster Fuller would have very much wanted to see everybody on board, wouldn't he? Everybody's on board, everybody's part of this spaceship Earth, and we're going to get to a synergistic thing that might be something, a culmination of the whole process of our whole existence. And this time, and he would have been I think Buckminster Fuller, I didn't know him that well, but I'll bet he would have been very, very happy with the existence of the internet, don't you?
Oh, yes, he was.
Well, he predicted it.
He did predict it 40 years before it happened.
About education automation.
That's right.
That was a great book. And he talked about autodidactism, and that people can educate themselves, and that it's worth them while doing. I mean, they get he said, the grandmasters who run the world tend to see, they're not worried about being displaced. That would be the masters who run the geopolitical, not worried about being displaced by the dullards. They're worried about the smart ones, and they get the smart ones all specialized out by putting them through the educational process so they won't become thinking about the whole and become a threat to the pirates that run the world. He wrote in such a beautiful way. He was gorgeous, just gorgeous. And his presence was absolutely electrifying and just engaging in the highest order.
I think it's important to note that because a lot of people ask me about education automation and this and Bucky's ideas about technology, and certainly in the education realm, all of the concerns about the use of technology in the classrooms, the use of technology by young people, et cetera, et cetera. And from my understanding is that the technology is just a tool. It's a means to an end. It's not an automated education system where everyone's an autodidact and they're isolated in their learning was not the vision. This technology was and is and still can be a way in which more and more people can access more and more information with the goal of creating deeper bonds between each other. Not serving as a further isolating technology. It's important to state that, because I think some people who don't really understand where Bucky was coming from in terms of his emphasis on technology immediately have this critique about that aspect of his thinking.
It's important always to. My father felt that the essence was in the child.
I loved 5-year-olds.
The child was forever touching and experiencing and wondering and
like you're doing,
and how to go. And he was concerned. He said that the educational system tended to de-genius the natural genius in all of us.
Yeah.
But coming to the things that Elizabeth was just bringing up, I see. I have I have two wonderful grandchildren. I have a wonderful grandson who is very into media, and I see that every time. I mean, he gets excited because he's got a question, and yes, he has a tool and a way to be able to get to another level, maybe not the answer, but another level. So it is empowering him enormously.
You don't think you're partial toward your grandchildren? I'm making a joke, darling. I mean, but the point is that it's all of them. They're all the grandchildren.
It's
my favorite people, I think, there's evidence for it too. If I may, a little sidebar. My favorite people, I think, in a certain sense, are 5-year-olds.
Absolutely.
5-year-olds have no artifice. They are dead honest, if you know what I mean. It seems to be universally. There was
Elizabeth has a couple of
I do. I have one who's 6.
You have a 5-year-old
who's
around?
6, who's just started
Aren't they gorgeous? They're just, I don't know how kindergarten teachers can take their pay for being in the company of such wonderful people as 5- and 6-year-olds. They're just marvelous.
Right.
But I mean, you know, that's something that I feel that way and everything. And it's all downhill from there. We end up like us. You know, and everything like that. But we could learn from the children. The good books did that. Well, on that thing of the internet, though, I had a friend who was in the room with Norbert Wiener talking about the computer, because everything's going cyber now in a very real sense, particularly all communication, and it has huge implications. I liked Marshall McLuhan. I don't know if you've read much. I read in conjunction with Fuller, as I read everything he had written and everything, but also Marshall McLuhan. I used to visit with him every spring. I could never get what the Yiddish call Hamish, you know, you get warm. He was more different, but he was really an interesting person. And the effects of the media, so the medium is the message, and the electronic effects. Anyway, I had a friend who took AOL public when they went, AOL, the company, and his dad had been in the room with Norbert Wiener, the granddaddy of cyber, in the, you know, before it was just coming up off the Turing machine and everything. And they were in the room when they coined the term cyber, about 1948, and it meant steersman. And they were talking about what was coming, and it was coming so slow in an exponential way that you were hardly noticed by anybody. But one of the things he said was that it creates information overload, or you can have information overload, but information, so in the computer, every day, Allegra, every day over the transom comes 6, 7 new, startling new revolutions that are coming in over the internet in every field. It's like a quickening in a pregnancy, that kind of thing. I think we have to get that sense in our mind that we're coming to a qualitative thing. But information overload, it's a cybernetic thing, permits pattern recognition. So if you're all in, people are all in problem, tunnel vision, but you can see things at another level. It's another level of consciousness. And the process that collectively we're going to go through is going to be a thing of sort of like consciousness raising. And the cyber
recognition is a very,
I think it is. It's sort of like moving toward comprehensive, isn't it?
Yeah.
Doesn't it move people more easily toward the comprehensive perception?
Absolutely.
It moves people towards understanding the connecting principles.
You know,
so that you can.
I'm looking at the time here.
Yeah, well, we have to.
And I want Elizabeth to tell us a little bit more about John Todd.
Okay, yes, by all means, by all means. Yeah, by all means.
So John Todd is going to be our keynote speaker. Right, he is really the originator of what's now known as ecological design. He invented something called the living machine, which is a way in which to use biological systems to clean degraded water escapes, applied in many cases in his work to wastewater systems. and he was the founder, with a number of other people, very inspired by Bucky, of the New Alchemy Institute in the 70s on Cape Cod. So, and there were, it was a real sort of laboratory of experimentation. That had a very, very profound effect and ripple effect, I think, from there.
Also was another place.
Findhorn and Lindisfarne fellows who were here in the city at the Cathedral at the St. John the Divine. So that is John Todd, our keynote speaker.
Oh, good, wonderful,
and you want to tell a little bit about his proposal?
He won in 2008 the very first Buckminster Fuller Challenge prize recipient for a very visionary strategy focused on the Appalachian region to transform the economic basis of that region to a sustainable, renewable energy basis away from a coal. The coal industry.
It's a huge issue, isn't it?
Huge issue.
And to repair the terrible ecological damage.
They cut off tops of mountains to get at it.
That's right. That's right. So he put forth a design process and framework, first, second, third, and fourth order ecological design, which takes you from the restoration of the soils, which is without healthy soils, there is no basis of an economy, no matter where you live in the world.
Absolutely
all the way through to the policy and institutional frameworks that are needed and necessary for a transformation of an economy to take full hold and flourish into the future. So your audience can read all about that proposal on the Challenge website. Each year, each winner has a full sort of interactive page on our website for you to go as deeply as you want to into the work that they're doing. And while I'm on that subject, I'll also just point your viewers to something called the Idea Index, which we also have as part of the Challenge program. And this is a repository of all of the entries that come.
They're available to the...
They are. They are.
What a curriculum.
And searchable by topic. And
I mean, you could...
It's, if you want to have an antidote to your evening news, I mean, really, I would love to see a future in which, you had the news of the day and then you also had a project, whether it's from BFI's Idea Index or the many, many, the blessed unrest universe that Paul Hawken writes about, of this emergent global community of people who are putting forth ways in which we can transform the world.
You're encouraged that way about institutions similar to your own that you can sing a sister or brotherly relationship with? There are emerging institutions that are doing the kinds of things that are done at BFI?
I would say there is.
I feel like there could be more.
Oh, I
think that BFI is unique in our emphasis and the stand we take around comprehensive anticipatory design science. That it's a hard thing to do. It takes a level of commitment and foresight and stamina to see a solution through to a point where it can really take hold. That I think, it's a rare individual who is able to do that. Having said that, I find it personally very encouraging to know that there are an increasing number of people who are taking up, even in a very small way in their community, some of the major issues that are facing them in a positive way. So I think it's sort of a both and.
And we might just mention here quickly, we'll give it again later, but www.bfi.org.
That's right.
That's a site to go to. That's a major site to go to.
What is the award that we got last year, or the labeling, or the?
We have been named Socially Responsible Design's highest award.
Socially Responsible Designs is that an organization?
No, it's if you break that down, Socially Responsible Design.
Right, important words, yeah.
It is, and that the Buckminster Fuller Challenge Prize is its highest award. So.
Okay.
And we're very
proud of that. That should be recognized and it should be encouraged, and I think it would probably fit into some of the the attitude of youth as is coming along too. They're looking for something that can give them that kind of sense of comprehensive understanding of what is going on. The world at large, I think, is.
Yeah.
Don't you think?
I do.
Now, I wonder if is it possible, if you do that, I noted Mr. Buckminster, Bucky. Sorry, he's such a beautiful guy, just beautiful. I see him in film and all that. He's just a slam dunk hero of mine, and has been my old adult life and everything. But he took that thing, anticipatory design science, as to be a place by which you could make artifacts that would make the world work better. Dymaxion car, the geodesic, the most efficient way to enclose space, and all of these kind of things, and build artifacts, and don't be concerned with the political.
I think that may be, in retrospect, wrong understanding. I mean, because a lot of people stopped with the artifacts, and then they said, well, the Dymaxion car didn't really go anywhere. That was
it went somewhere very fast.
Well, but
it was very efficient.
Daddy would do these demonstrations.
Yes.
Again, really of a principle.
Okay.
A principle that might take. I mean, even the geodesic structures can be used in many ways by many people. Right. They're not a particular it's
principle,
a building principle.
Design principles, with nature. And he built from nature, I'm sorry.
And certainly everything that he understood, he learned from nature, really. But so I think we get trapped with the artifact thing now. I mean, that's one of the exciting things again about the people who have been our award winners. They're not doing an artifact. In most instances, we have a couple of interesting
artifact producers.
Artifacts, but largely it's a much bigger
process that can be understood.
They win because of the strategy. If there is also at the heart of it, like in our 2009 winners were a team of students from MIT who put forth an absolutely visionary project centered around urban mobility. Really thinking through at a comprehensive level how we're going to solve the mobility issue in cities. And the problem that people talk about, which is the last mile problem. How do you get from the existing transportation system into the actual city without having, a lot of people can't get there without getting in their car. And so at the heart of that strategy are 3 electric vehicles, a scooter, a bicycle, and a car. But they didn't win because these vehicles are so innovative in and of themselves. They did not submit a standalone technology breakthrough in electric vehicle production. Those vehicles are part of this much larger visionary strategy that can be adopted and replicated, modified for other cities, but again, get back to this notion of these design principles. And to your point about the geodesic structures, they are demonstrations of a principle, which can take forms that you couldn't possibly imagine in the future, but they're linked because of that fundamental principle.
And you can see linkages between them as a process. The process itself. And I'm thinking he had that thing. And then toward the end of his life, if I'm not mistaken, he wrote a couple of books. One was called Critical Path, and he wrote another one, Grunch of Giants, where he seemed to take on the political system, if I'm not mistaken.
That is correct.
He looked at it, he became...
That was the only time he did, because he was very anti-politics, really. I mean, he thought
no, most of his life.
But
most of his life, he was into like an artist in a design sense. He was there, but he took interest in the larger issue, included that in that, and it was very scathing, very well written critique that I think the Occupy Wall Street mentality that is emerging, trying to be born into this world, I think it's far more serious than the established order would like to think, that there is a questioning of the whole system.
No,
absolutely. A comprehensive question, and that you're coming up to a thing where it's going to be questioning like we said earlier, it's not one thing. It's going to get down to where we're going to, if that principle, the principal thing that he presented in a sign of way is that thing about the haves and have-nots, and that we were making progress in the world, and that we were transcending material scarcity, is a principle that informs virtually everything in a qualitative way. If we're coming out of a time in which there has been scarcity in the sense not only of resources or of housing or of food, but ideas and knowledge and everything, to one where we're coming to a time of adequacy onto sufficiency for all and the ecology, that's a qualitative transformation. The stuff of which punctuated equilibrium in evolutionary terms are done. That's the major premise. That doesn't seem to be identified by people, but I think in his books at the end he said, what the biggest design question we have are what are the terms by which the economic system, the political system, the whole operating system for this interrelated spaceship Earth with the ecology is going to be run. What are the parameters of the reality? What are they? He's asking us to look at that, and our political leadership is still balancing on the edge of any day they could blow up the whole damn thing because they're reifying outdated institutions, and the intellectual community isn't coming up with something challenging it on that level. The operating manual for Spaceship Earth is a magnificent idea, and it doesn't seem to be identified anywhere in any intellectual place or anything of that sort. That's the biggest premise. It seems that's the major premise upon which there could be a qualitative transformation that might make possible. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do.
Elizabeth, say again the propelling quote.
Yeah, the mission statement. That's our grounding scripture for the day.
It's true. It's
thank you.
To make the world work for 100% of humanity.
100%. 100%.
That's fine. No, it's fine. Yeah, go on.
In the shortest possible time, through spontaneous cooperation. Without ecological offense, or the disadvantage of anyone.
That's marvelous. That means that we're going to have to anchor to history. We're going to have to anchor. Obviously, we're not going to go through some sort of... How did we get to be Homo sapien out of Homo habilis? How did the whole... It was Australopithecine. There's an evolutionary process. You have a thing. You have to anchor to history, but you don't anchor to... You anchor to history to some of our... I would think the anchoring of the history would be very good among some of our visionaries, like Sri Aurobindo, or Jesus, or Buddha. They're roundly ignored by the political class. They're not paid attention to. We ought to pay attention to the thing that grounds us to it gives us a connection to the historically inherited institutional structure to be transformed or subsumed. But we don't do it, but I don't see how you're going, I don't know if there has to be something, you're going to have something liberating of this. You got the ability to have the human society liberated where everybody can realize their full potential. No mother has to worry which kid's going to starve to death because there's not enough food. You've got a system that works for all of humanity, liberating them from a system of serfdom that largely they've had to live in, and then you're going to have it in the ultimate, and the ecology, and the ultimate challenge to have it something where you're going to be able to stay in the hands of the people who are going to reify the outdated thing based upon scarcity, where the principle by which the authorities establish is weapons. That still holds in the political realm. And you're going to have to identify with that some who can understand an alternative economic way to form capital, how to distribute demand. We don't have it.
Well,
because do you understand what I'm saying?
I think this gets to, I do, and I think that it's bringing to mind another quote of Bucky's that I don't think I'm going to get as well. But it says something along the lines of don't fight the existing system, build system.
Subsume.
But its very existence makes the existing system obsolete. I'm not
I know that's a nice way to avoid. That's a way to avoid the responsibility of relating to those who are responsible for the outmoded order. It can be.
No, I think it's a both and. And I think that the people that we are championing through all of the work of the Buckminster Fuller Institute, you know, the Challenge program is our lead program, but these people are not just running away from the world and building some kind of utopian community that they hope
Utopia or oblivion.
Yeah, right. They are.
I'm worried about the oblivion.
However,
by these geopolitical people who are running things.
They are creating new systems, new ways of doing things that are anchored in real communities, anchored in the way people are living today, but that once experienced by an increasing number of people, make the old system obsolete, because they are demonstrating that a new way of living, a new way of thinking, a new way of designing is possible, and it works.
Okay, beautiful. That's beautiful. The only thing I'm respectfully submitting is that old system, there's a time of transition, that old system, like, say, the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, the thinking of John Maynard Keynes, the thinking, the economics, the geopolitical thing. It's all based upon power relationships that exist. It still holds in the minds of people. It's the news, all of that. It's going to have to be liaisoned with. There have to be people there, so you're going to have to be able to include people who can understand a qualitative transformation. It will be subsumed rather than abolished. It's not a matter of doing it in. You've got to find people in that. So you've got to include everybody, including the people operating the old system that's out of date.
Yeah, but even those people,
yes, ma'am,
at a point, will recognize that the new system actually will work for them.
Absolutely, that's the point. You got to have some people in that realm that can understand it, and then
everybody.
And that's the way. We don't want to destroy anybody. We don't want to tear down anybody. We got to get people responsible in those positions. But they're the ones you're worrying about. They're the ones who got the finger on the button, and they're doing all kinds of things in their angst because they're going to be subsumed, and they've got to be included. So the ultimate challenge to those who want to change have to include those responsible for the outdated political economic system that exists.
And I would submit
that's the biggest design problem, is to design the way in which the planet, the spaceship Earth, is going to be navigated.
The people who are winning the Buckminster
Well, let's get to the challenge now. Today, everybody, let's do that. They can't do better than going to the BFI and to Fuller. Anyway, aren't these incredible? I feel privileged to have been born into such a time. Oxum razor's edge, you could go. You know what I mean? I mean, you could have lived 600 years ago, and it takes 2,000 years to invent a tack. And now it's coming in. Thank you very much for all the work.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you, Allegra, for coming in. Elizabeth, all the best. Look forward to seeing you on the 6th. Wonderful. Everybody ought to get out to the BFI Center, the Cooper Union, the one across the street from the old building, 41, for the event on the 6th of June. Happy to bring those perceptions. Invite you to tune in. We'll be coming back again tomorrow. The ladies, thank you very, very much for everything, for all the good work, and for such a very well-led life. Your dad was great. Perhaps the greatest human being in the history of our city.
That's right.
All right. We'll be coming back again tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Wonderful.